Hey, it's Off My Bridge, and my name is Guy, and today we have a new book from Modiphius for Star Trek Adventures 2, and it is, weirdly, considering last week's episode, I had no idea, I swear, but the new book is, ta-da! It's the 23rd century setting book, which covers the end of Enterprise, era, kind of, Strange New Worlds, Discovery, the original series, and the motion pictures up until 6. So it's a huge, huge scope of time that it covers, 2200 to 2299, or thereabouts, give or take. And this book it's packed with all kinds of really cool stuff that you can use straight away, and stuff that is going to get you to think a little bit. So let's dive into this book and look at why it could be something that you should be looking at putting in underneath the Christmas tree, perhaps, or presenting at the next Captain's Holiday celebration. You know, something like that. For players, there's some really cool stuff. And we're starting to see a trend in terms of how their books are put together. We are expecting this kind of stuff, and they don't fail to deliver. We have a whole bunch of new environments in which your character can grow up. So if you remember character creation process, environment is step number 2, I think. And in that step, you're talking about where your character grew up. They've got just a whole bunch of core Federation worlds that your character can now grow up on. And with that comes new values that they propose for that environment that you grew up in. And it's really, really exciting to see how they are giving us lore and information about these home worlds that is kind of buried in obscure references in some of the TV shows. It's kind of seen here and there in a book or in a comic book reference. So it's really, really cool to see, hey, what was Denobula like in 2253? It's cool little stuff like that. So we've got new environments for your characters to grow up in. There is a new career path, which is very exciting as it starts to open up the opportunity for you to run a non-Federation campaign, especially if you look at the previous technical manual and the like. There are some new career paths, and this one is one that when I first encountered the character, I was like, not sure. But by the time the character left the series, I was like, no, I like your character growth. Neelix. And what was Neelix? He was a free trader, which is the new career path that they've now added in. Literally traders traveling across space, selling junk, and all of the things that go with that. So you can now start to assemble your ragtag team using this free trader career path. And of course, that comes with all of the things that you would expect in terms of a career path to create what I think is quite a versatile character option. So that's very exciting, in my opinion. Next up, career events. Now, this is quite an extensive part of the book where they look at career events specific to the 23rd century. We're talking things like the Federation-Klingon War, we're talking the Red Angel, we're talking the Gorn waking up and taking out Cestus 3. There's a lot that happens in the 23rd century, and they've managed to include it here for you to have as career events, very specific to that time frame, so that you can create characters that really feel as if they come from this era, which I think is really, really, really awesome. There are some really, really cool options in here for you to add in character creation. Another thing which they have done throughout the book is they have peppered it with events in kind of decade by decade play where they are asking questions like, how does your character feel about the end of the Federation-Klingon War? How does your character feel about the Romulan neutral zone? How does your character feel about the Gorn waking up and then going back into slumbering state? You know, all that kind of really, really interesting stuff. How does your character feel about the Cardassian Datapa Council being formed or the Obsidian Order running around? This is some really cool character development question stuff which I think anybody who wants to create a really robust character is going to really, really, really appreciate, because they are leading questions specifically for those time periods. Something that they have also done, which I really appreciate, is throughout those different decades of play that is contained within the book, they list potential traits and focuses that your character may have more of in this period than in that period. So in the 2230s, you're more likely to have perhaps been this, whereas by the 2380s, you're more likely to be like that, or have these traits as things have shifted and changed and evolved. It's such a rich resource for you as a character creator to be able to go, yeah, I like this. This is cool. This is something that makes more sense, makes the character feel as if they're going to walk around Captain Kirk's starship, or that they are on the Discovery team. It really, really helps with character creation. So that's the character side of things. What can you do as a player? As a GM, oh boy, as a GM, they have added in some really, really cool things. And the first thing, and maybe this doesn't happen in your games often, but it is such a poignant moment in every Star Trek series, in the films, when someone dies during combat, during a starship encounter, during a disaster. It becomes a major thing. And they've added it in. They've given us rules on how to do casualties within space battles. How do we roll for them? How do we determine? It's really, really awesome. They've also included fatigue, where they have expanded upon the ideas of fatigue and how does fatigue work, and scars and injuries. So they're really driving home the sense of, hey, people die or they suffer wounds and things. This is how you actually do it. So that I appreciate, to kind of get that grittiness. We've got several wars that happened during this century. It kind of makes sense for them to have expanded upon that. I like that. I really do like that. And of course, it wouldn't be a setting book if they didn't give you tons and tons of information on setting the themes and the tones almost for each decade of the 23rd century. Bear in mind, this is what was happening then. So look at these themes, look at these ideas. And they're not just, oh, here's some vague ideas. Like if you're running an episodic style campaign, here are some ideas. If you're running a long form campaign, here are some ideas. If you're just doing a one shot, here are some ideas. Look at these tones, look at these themes. And you'd expect for it to be almost repetitive to a certain degree. It absolutely isn't. They've really deep dived. So like the video that I did last week, take that and turn that into a 124-page book. That's kind of what you're getting just for the 23rd century. So I'm guessing that means that we're probably going to get some other eras of play books too, which could be exciting, especially when you think about the later eras, the 36th or 35th century Star Trek stuff. It's invigorating. So GMs have got a lot to play with. There's a lot of support in there for GMs to run games in this period. It's really, really what this book is about, and they deliver. They deliver in spades. It's really, really, really cool. For everybody, not just the players, not just the GMs, the main thing that this book is giving you is this kind of gigantic lore book. It's a setting book, so they're giving you the setting, but they're giving you the setting not just for the Federation, for the Klingons, for the Romulans. They're giving you the settings for the Cardassians, the Trill, the Ferengi Alliance. Now, these were traditionally not really explored too much in the original series with Kirk, or in Enterprise. They were hinted at, but they couldn't really go too far because of certain lore conditions. And certainly Strange New Worlds, we've seen some inclusion of these species, but they didn't exist when they were being made, when the series were being made. Here we've got the opportunity to say, hey, what was happening during the Ferengi Alliance? What were the Ferengi doing whilst the Federation and the Klingons were at war? Well, this is in there. So there's lots of beautiful, juicy lore. Literally, you go, well, I'm playing in 2372. Let's have a look. What is it suggesting? What's some of the cool lore that's coming through? And it's not surface stuff either. It's really, really cool stuff. Things that you kind of go, oh, Yeah, I knew that because it was mentioned as a single sentence in one episode once, and it was a boring episode, so my brain was kind of half on. It's in there. And that's what I really appreciate about these books, is that they are so well crafted and accurate, but at the same time accessible. It's not a giant lore dump that you have to read the whole thing. You can just go in and go, oh, let's have a look here, let's have a look here, let's have a look here. So that's what I really like. Another thing for everybody is that they look at the political state and the plots and the dynamic nature of the entire Alpha and Beta quadrants during this time per decade. So again, you can hyper-focus. It can be very intimidating when you go, oh, we're playing in the 23rd century, which is Kirk and Spock and Pike. You're going, well, that's pretty broad. Can you be more specific? And then, wait, what was specifically happening during that time period? This book covers that. So I think it's for all readers, there is significant value. Who really will benefit from this book the most? Definitely new players will benefit from this book. Here is accessible lore for a time period that is still very open. If you think about the 24th century Picard and DS9 and that sort of thing, a lot of the politics and stuff is historical, and that comes from this 23rd century. And so the 23rd century, they're still exploring and discovering these things. And nothing is set in stone yet because it's still evolving. So if you're playing in the 2220s, 2230s, 2240s, there's still a lot of really cool stuff going on. And there's a lot of stuff that we don't really know much about. The Federation-Klingon War, for example. We know stuff was happening. We know these things were happening, but there's so much more to it that you can now explore. So new players have that freedom of not being bound by all of the old TV shows and episodes and things. So that's really cool. Experienced players now have an opportunity to really deep dive and to dig into this time period, which I think is really, really awesome. It's really awesome. I have always looked at this time period as a kind of like, yeah, it's interesting, but it's not really my favorite. My favorite is the 24th century. Well, now I'm really looking at it going, there was so much cool stuff going on in the 23rd century. I really want to explore what that was like or what this was like, because the opportunities are there. So what is the book missing, if anything? Well, my initial reaction when I read this book was I was like, yes, cool, rated nice, really great. Wait, where are the starship stats? Where are the NPC stats for this time period? I want to know what a D7 class cruiser's stats are. I want to know what this type of starship is. What was the stat difference between the USS Enterprise 1701 and the refit Constitution and then the 1701A? What are those differences? And what's the 1701B? It's stuff like that that I really want to know that's not in the book. And that got me to thinking, this book is not about the stat blocks. This book is about the setting. It's about the themes. It's about the tones. It's about the events that are happening. And that opens it up for you as the GM. It also says to me that there is another book coming that's got all of these updated ship stats, data stats. And by looking at it, it looks to me as if whatever book comes out with all of this data in it is going to be structured to fit into these setting books. So one book with all of the stat blocks for those that need those stat blocks, or for those who like to have those stat blocks, could be a really great unifying force to then bring in the 23rd century guide, the 24th century guide, the 25th century guide, the 34th century guide. It could be really cool without then bloating this book to being something that's like, well, I really want those ships, but I don't want the rest of the guide. Put that into a ship book. That makes more sense in my head. Modiphius, are you listening? Folks, it's launching today. As a matter of fact, that's why this video came out. I wasn't allowed to talk about it until 2 hours ago, and so you are seeing it here. I'd love to know your thoughts. What kind of books do you want to see coming out of Modiphius? What do you feel is lacking or is missing or is something that is exciting that could be explored? A lot of you have transitioned from Star Trek Adventures 1 to Star Trek Adventures 2. we have those books. I've got them on my bookshelf, which you can't see behind me because it's a green screen. But I have them on my bookshelf. Do I look at them? For reference every now and again. Do I use them in my STA2 games? No, I don't. I want the new books with the shiny and the new layout and the new traits and all that kind of stuff. So what would you like to see added? Anyway, now, if you are unaware, I have a Patreon, and that Patreon is patreon.com/greatgamemaster. And that Patreon, I release Star Trek stuff on there, stuff that I come up with, adventure ideas, stat blocks, that sort of thing. Currently, I've been releasing crews. So here's a starship, and here's the crew of that starship with minor NPCs, major NPCs, notable NPCs, and that kind of thing. Included in that with their stat blocks, because I love those stat blocks. I love having those kind of things freshly and freely available to me. So go check that out if you want to support the channel. And of course, until next week, where we will be looking at Resistance is Futile. I wish you long life and happy gaming.